Hey everyone. This week we're watching Dr. Strangelove, a 1964 Stanley Kubrick film. Dr. Strangelove, which has the subtitle How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, is a dark political satire dealing with the fears of nuclear conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The story centers on an unhinged Air Force general, Jack D. Ripper, who unilaterally orders a nuclear first strike against the Soviet Union. Ripper believes the communist conspiracy threatens the United States and that only he can prevent it. He orders the nuclear strike and cuts off all lines of communication in order to prevent the bombers from being recalled. The President of the United States, Merkin Muffley, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, including General Buck Turgidson, and advisors, including Dr. Strangelove, gather in the war room in an effort to prevent nuclear apocalypse.
You fucking bully, you something, you sell the guy, you tasty karate before, hey, you war mustang boy.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here, this is the war room.
Separately, the film also follows the crew of one of the B-52 bombers, captained by Major King Kong, as they try to carry out their mission. Dr. Strangelove's regularly been recognized as one of the best American films in history and was among the group of films first inducted to the Library of Congress's preservation in the National Film Registry. It deals with a whole host of themes relevant to this course, including the psychology of war and decision-making, nuclear policy, and Cold War tensions. As usual, there's a film viewing guide available on the course Canvas site that I encourage you to read before you watch the film. It will point to some of the key scenes and topics that I want you to pay particular attention to as you watch the movie. Throughout the film, there's a number of exchanges, including a speech on deterrence by Dr. Strangelove about an hour into the movie, and an exchange between Turgidson and Muffley about the strategic value and morality of a nuclear first strike against the Soviet Union. These scenes provide some really interesting insights into Cold War nuclear policy. But the film also highlights some of the critical theory perspectives that we've considered throughout the course. Pay attention to the opening credits scenes and ask yourself what feminist IR scholars might offer in terms of the sexualized imagery presented there, or about the general lack of female characters throughout the film. Indeed, there's only one, and she has a particularly interesting role. There's a lot feminist IR scholars can tell us about this film. Constructivist theory also can make some important contributions. Pay attention to the way that the conflict, the mistrust and misunderstandings develop through the film. The mineshaft gap that emerges at the end of the film is an obvious parody for concerns that President Kennedy raised about a missile gap between the US and the USSR in the late 50s and early 60s.
Mr. President, we must not allow a mine shaft gap.
Even though that gap never actually existed, it nevertheless framed American nuclear policy during that period of the Cold War. And so what can constructivist IR scholars tell us about these kinds of questions? I could go on and on. Dr. Strangelove is a fantastic movie through which we can really make sense of a lot of Cold War and American nuclear policy. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts about this film and to the discussion that's going to follow. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
War is too important to be left to politicians.
The hell.
Mr. President, about 35 minutes ago, General Jack Ripper, the commanding general of Burleson Air Force Base, issued an order for the planes to attack their targets inside Russia. The aircraft began penetrating Russian radar cover within 25 minutes.
I want to speak to General Ripper on the telephone personally.
General Ripper sealed off the base and cut off all communication. Any force trying to enter there would certainly encounter very heavy casualties.
Staines, get Premier Kissoff on the hotline.
Premier Kissoff is a degenerate atheist.
Mr. President, I formally request that you have the signal blind
Mr. President,
I think they're trying the number. One of our base commanders, he ordered his planes to attack your country.
Check bomb door circuits 1 through 4.
They will not reach their targets for at least another hour. We're just gonna have to help you destroy them.
The fools, the mad fools, the doomsday machine, a device which will destroy all human and animal life on Earth.
Is the Premier threatening to explode this if our planes carry out their attack?
No, sir. It is not a thing a sane man would do. The Doomsday Machine is designed to trigger itself automatically.
Automatically?
It's an obvious comic trick, Mr. President. We're wasting valuable time. Look at they doing. They're getting ready to clobber us.
Dr. Strangelove.
Mr. President, the technology required is easily within the means of even the smallest nuclear power. It requires only the will to do so.
Guys, I'll take you out even more, eh? You wore my thing for it.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Colonel Rippers, as an officer in Her Majesty's Air Force, it is my clear duty to issue the recall code and bring back the wing. You'll excuse me, sir.
He says that one of the planes hasn't turned back. He says, according to information forwarded by our air staff, it's headed for the missile complex at Laputa.
We'll meet again